Sur de serie. Не знаю, вы меня видите или нет. Сейчас разберемся. Voilà. Sur de serie Marche d'Oril. As you have seen before, we will be having this session in English. Why in English, and one part will be in Russian as well. Why? Because we receive a lot of questions from youth asking to organize these sessions in English because they do not master business terminology in other languages that well. Some practicalities before we start. On the right hand, you see their chat questions. If you have questions for one of the presenters, feel free just to put them in there, and we will try to come back on them during the presentations. That being said, I would start with the presentations. I will share my screen. Share screen. Yes. You all see the screen, right? Good. I will start presenting. First of all, before we deep dive into specific domains, I would like to give a bit of context why we are organizing this session. As you all know, people have integrated technology into their daily normal activities. It's hard to imagine that you would have a day without Wi-Fi, smartphone, or any other fancy apps that you might be using to ease your life. That being said, what does that mean for us? It means there are a lot of opportunities this area has to offer. In other words, this digital revolution, if I may put it that way, is impacting everything. It's impacting education, science, and many other fields. And this brings a lot of opportunities for those interested in this area. And one stereotype we hope to bring down with this session as well is the fact that you don't have to be well knowledged. You don't have to be a programmer. You don't have to be an IT geek in order to apply in one of these domains. Today we have 4 presenters, myself including. Deni Saidulaev, as a product owner, will shed some lights on his domain, followed by another Deni working as a software engineer at AXA. Then we have Ibrahim, graphic designer / web development, and I will give you more input on SAP itself. I will invite Deni on stage, as he is our first presenter. Let me find, voila.
Sürekli الحديث.
Хорошо, sur l'écran.
Да, езжает. Sürekli kalması. Так, связь вроде нормальная. Так, как это сделаем? Shall we talk about the role of product owner? Shall I start or with a short introduction on what I do and
Perhaps you can give a bit of background. Did you start as a product owner immediately, or you have a...
Let me first then share where do I do my job now. So I'm what they call product owner. What does it mean? Or you could say product manager. So those terms are interchangeable. Product owner. I work currently at BNP Paribas Fortis. It's a Belgian French-owned bank, and the product that I, let's say, own, not really, is the website of BNP Paribas Fortis. So if you go to bnpparibasfortis.be, let's say, everything around is what my team is working on. Obviously, we're not the only squad, but the team that works on it. But let's say we're the one that provides the website to other teams within the bank. So that's what I do now. Product owner, perhaps I can, what I did before is I did business analysis. So business analysis, you could say it's somebody who gathers requirements for a product. Okay, but I've used a few terms, I think they're like, what is a product, what is requirement? So perhaps we can start with this slide, right? With what is actually a product owner, yeah.
One question, perhaps could you emphasize requirement? What do you mean by that?
Requirement, if let's say if you're a business owner and you need to develop a web shop for your business, you could come to me perhaps and say, okay, these are my requirements. I need to have maybe we'll have maybe clothing section, I don't know, apparel, some merchandise. You have certain requirements that you have for your shop. So my job would be as business analyst to capture them, to understand why you need them and translate them to, let's say, software engineers, like we will hear later. So it's being analytical and capturing those requirements that you have for the product that you need. All right. So, okay, product, where does it start? As we can see on the slide, we can take a new product, something that starts from scratch, like a startup or an existing one. But everything always starts with an idea, right? So that's what we see on the left-hand side of the slide is somebody has an idea about a new feature of an existing product or a new product altogether. If you take, for example, I'll be taking example of social media, Instagram. If somebody has an idea at Instagram to have a new feature, I don't know, Instagram stories, then that's an idea. It started. So the whole process starts. How does that idea come to life? Does every idea get developed? Does the customer, the end user that you see on the slide once again, does he see every idea that everyone had at the company? No. So the job of a product owner is in this context to filter, in a sense, what ideas are worth developing, what ideas are worth bringing to market. And so this is in a really small, in a nutshell, what the product owner does. The person, he or she is the one who prioritizes work. So he's the one person responsible to say, okay, the team will work on this or that feature. And is he the only person? Obviously he's not, because there will be developers working on it, but he's not the know-it-all, obviously, you know. And so now you can see on the slide, like, with whom can a product owner work. So I've indicated the product owner with the blue icon. The product owner might work with the design team, for example. So people who need to develop how this product will look like, the colors, the images, everything. The product owner might work together with the sales team. If the sales see certain trends developing on the market, they will talk to the product owner, obviously. The product owner will work together with the business as well to understand what the customers want. Together with the marketing as well, how to get the product to the market, how to launch it successfully, and analysts as well. So all kinds of, and any profile, let's say, any meaningful role who can contribute to the success of the product. The product owner will work with that person. So back to the slide. So that's the product owner together with the other stakeholders, we call them. But there's another important point. It's on the right side. You see development team, right? So development team, it consists essentially of any person, it has skill set that is needed to bring the product to market. Meaning, okay, what does it mean? Development team can mostly consist of software engineers, so people who, let's say, code, if it's a digital product you're working on. But the development team can also have a designer within the team. Maybe that person will work on a day-to-day basis with the team. So it can consist of different profiles. How big is a development team? Let's say in a startup, it can be rather small, 7 people, 5, 8. My team consists of 15 people. So it's rather big team, and it's usually not advisable to have more than 10, but somehow we manage. And so product owner, he or she is responsible for product success, right? That's very important. Contrary to project manager, you might have heard that one. Project manager, he's the project manager responsible to deliver the project on time, on schedule, on budget, right? But here, I as a product owner, I need to look at the value that the product will have to the end user, whoever will use our product. So yeah, and I use different things let's say to determine the value and the things that help me in my work. For example, I've indicated here product vision, like what is the vision of the product? Why does it exist? What does it need to do? Obviously, I won't be the only person who works on the product vision, but I'm responsible for it. What does it mean? If my product needs a product vision, it's maybe a new product, I will get together key stakeholders, maybe somebody from design, business, CEO, CIO, get them together to co-create the product vision, right? So that everyone knows why this product exists. Then I might work on a roadmap, product roadmap. What do we foresee to develop the first 3 months, 6 months, and so forth? And then I might have a backlog. What is a backlog? Backlog, it's essentially a list of, let's say, all these ideas that the team can work on. I put it very bluntly because you can refine an idea, right? In the very beginning, ideas like very vague, but as I work together with the team, I refine it. It gets very specific. So backlog is essentially a list of, let's say, tasks, things to do for the team. And so here I try to create a small image like what I do as a product owner / product manager, you could say, people I work with as well.
I have a question. I do know an answer on it, but it might be interesting for the audience to know as well. Do you have a lot of routine in your job?
No, because there are certain things you have to do over and over again. Like it's not a routine, but it's like we call them events, meetings we need to hold. For example, last week, my Monday started with a morning meeting with my development team. You can see on the screen there, development team. So I talked with them the things they can work on the next 2 weeks. So I looked at the backlog and I said, okay, these are the priority things, and the development team will work on those things the next 2 weeks. So that's a meeting we have every 2 weeks. And there are other meetings we have, let's say, on a recurrent basis, but they always differ.
Next to the meetings, your job will be different depending on the product you are working on at that moment.
And industry, like for example, my product is, like I said, the website of the BNP Paribas Fortis in Belgium. And but next, I have colleagues who is also a product owner, and his product is the mobile app, the finance app of the bank, for example. And so you can have even in the same company, you can have very different product owners. Some will be very technical, too technical for me. Some will be, let's say, more business-minded like me. So per industry, per company, you can have very different profiles there. Yeah.
We have a question. If there's a specific program you will be talking about that you all work with, I don't know if it's related to
software or.
I don't know if it's related to all the presenters or it's related to your job as a product owner?
Yeah, so as a product owner, yeah, let's say we use different tools, if that's the question, what's the question is about. We use different programs, softwares. Yeah, let's say my product is this website of the bank that I work on with the squad, with the team. And yeah, we use many different digital tools. And in a startup, you will see people using different tools and software that they work on, if that was the question. Yeah.
Good. Perhaps also one last question from my side. Could you emphasize what a consultant is? Because just to put it clear, that's not that you are not full-time working in the company that you are employed at.
Yeah, indeed. So I not employed. I don't work directly for the bank. I'm employed by a consulting company, and so the bank, let's say the bank had a need a few years ago before I started for a product owner. So they go on the market and they search for consultants. In this case, the profile would be product owner, and they found one at my employer, who was me. And so I work, let's say my employer gets paid by the bank because I get hired by the bank. And my day-to-day job, I go to as a consultant and go to the bank. I work there almost more than 2 years. So I have close contacts with the colleagues there on a day-to-day basis. I'm there. And occasionally I, let's say, go to my consulting company where I have other colleagues as well. So it's, what's the benefit there? By working in this consulting company, I get shared experience. So let's say if there are other product owners who have certain things to share experiences, then I can go to them, ask certain questions, or I can share my experience with them. So there's value there that you work in a consulting company. And another thing, if let's say after 6 months I need to change project, my employer, this consulting company, will find me another project as well. So it's you can get lots of experience on a short-term basis as well, right there. Yeah.
Good.
And I also wanted to emphasize that I put an icon product owner perhaps a bit on top of development team and the rest, but it's not hierarchical role. I do not manage development team as such. I don't tell them how to do their job. I think Deni in the next presentation will explain that as well. My job is to explain what they need to work on. I work, of course, I collaborate with them, but I don't tell them how to do their job. I'm not their manager, to put it that way. So it's really on a flat organizational structure there. So it's also very important to note that.
Good. Thanks a lot, Deni. I think as we have one last question, you are like a coordinator of processes.
Not partially, but we have a process defined. We work according to Scrum framework. It's like which ceremony, which meetings we have, how often. That's the process, the framework. But I'm more, I would say, they say value maximizer of the product. I really need to understand the end user, the business, and the technology. So it's like the product needs to be technically feasible. It needs to be easy to use to end user, and it needs to make business sense. It needs to be, I don't know, profitable for the business, obviously. So it's like I'm like it's a very multifaceted role because you're a bridge between different things, and your day can start with working with developers and can end with talking to business and end users.
I would say let's go to Deni. I don't know if he already joined the stage. Deni, are you with us? Let's hope he did not decide to take legs this time.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, so
bring us some knowledge in the wonderful world of development.
I definitely will try. So I am a software engineer at AXA, which is an insurance company and a bank, but I work on the insurance side. It's what most people think about when they think about IT is actually development. right? So I will try to give you more information on how, on which directions you can take in software engineering itself, because in IT you have a lot of directions you can take, but even as a software engineer you have a lot of directions you could take. So if we go to the next slide, I, for example, develop applications at my current job. But that's not the only thing we do. We manage databases, we do a lot of testing. So even when I do development, I need to know all these other skills too. And when I'm developing applications, there are different types of applications too. So I, for example, work on web applications mostly. But there are other applications too. There are desktop applications and there are mobile applications. Just to give you the difference between those three in a quick summary is desktop applications are, for example, applications you have like your camera application on your laptop. If you open camera, that's just a normal app. It's not a website, it's nothing else. It's just a simple application. And mobile application speaks for itself. It's just an app on your phone. And web applications, you can are basically websites. So for example, Facebook is actually a web application. So you have normal websites that are static websites where you can't really do much. Just browse from one page to another and read what's on there. That's a normal static website. And then all other websites, dynamic websites, where you can, for example, register, make a blog or something like that. That's what we call a web application. And yeah, like I said, Facebook would be a good example of it. So when we develop applications, we have to, like I previously mentioned, manage database. Maybe I should explain. I'm not sure if database is something that most people know what that is automatically or not. But for example, when you register, all that data needs to be saved somewhere, and that's on another computer. It gets saved on there on a server. That's basically your database where all the data is stored. And for all these things, you need that knowledge to, even just a software engineer. You don't need to know a lot of it, because even when you do IT, you can become a database expert or you can become a testing expert, but you need basic knowledge of these things to be a software developer in general. And developing applications, you can divide in two aspects, which is front and back end, which I will delve into deeper now. And this is something where you can specialize yourself in once you start developing. I see some questions there too. Should we wait until it's over, or? Heda, are you there?
I would say go ahead with your explanation and we can tackle the questions at the end.
Okay, sounds good. So when developing applications, you can specialize even more into the type of applications or that you want to think about or work on, which is the front end and the back end. Front end is what the user sees. So when you go on a website, Facebook, for example, all the buttons, the whole layout, you can specialize in just developing that, what the user sees, which for me is a very fun thing to do, because a big advantage of it is you can be a bit creative. Depending on the project or the company you work for, you have a certain flexibility on how creative you can be with designing a certain page, right? And you also get that instant gratification, which for some people helps a lot to keep enjoying their job. For example, if you, let's say you want to make a button smaller, you can code it to make it smaller and you immediately see the result, which with most jobs, once you're actually working on something, you don't really see the impact of what you're doing. And that's a big plus with development, and especially front-end development. And a few examples of languages is HTML and CSS. This is the basic one. HTML is basically the structure of your code, and CSS is the styling of your website. And JavaScript is also a language which you can use to create the front end. And then
one question on the languages.
yes.
How did you study to code?
Actually, I got the basics from school. So I did in high school. I was doing business and IT. So I automatically got the basics of HTML and CSS and JavaScript, and that's how I just learned that I enjoy writing in these languages. But of course, if you're not following any of those courses, then you can go online. There are so many pages or websites that could teach you basic HTML coding and even JavaScript, CSS. If you look up HTML development, you get tons of results. So I would say if you're interested, definitely look it up, and you will not be disappointed.
But are there programs for a developer that you start as a junior, you get trainings to develop yourself without yourself having already a knowledge up front? Or you, I don't know if you have a view on that.
So special courses that I can follow if I don't have any knowledge at all, you mean?
The question is actually, do you need to have upfront knowledge to start as a developer, or that's something you can develop during the course of your career?
That's a good question, but you definitely need at least some basic knowledge of how to code before you actually start looking for a job for it. Because the thing with coding is you need a lot of experience. You need to try a lot, experiment a lot. Even just doing at home a few projects is a big plus. You can put those things on your CV too. Especially if if you're just a personal project, or if you make your own website, just a simple websites. Making websites is very simple. Ibrahim, the next speaker, will tell you more about making websites. Don't need to code even to make websites, but it would be a great start to put on your CV, for example. That's about it, I would say. Yeah.
Good.
So if we continue, then you also have the backend part. So front end is everything that the user sees. But for example, when you register on Facebook, for example, then you should be able to, I mean, there is a whole process behind it that you don't see. When you register, this user has to be saved to a database, and then when you log in, the program should be able to get all your info and check if the password is correct, if the username is correct, and make you sign in. And that's a lot more work, definitely. And you don't see, like in front end, you don't have the immediate gratification, I would say. But it's still really important to know about the backend, because it really helps you understand how an application works. And just being a software engineer, being in this how would I say this environment, you should have at least a basic knowledge of what you're doing and how it works behind the scenes, at least a little bit, the basics, I would say. And so you have these two ways you can develop. There are a lot of jobs where you can just be a front-end developer and specialize in that, and you can also be a back-end developer and specialize in that. And then you have a third option, which is full stack development, and that's doing both. If you like both, and then you can work on those two. and combine them and do a job that involves those two and make applications from scratch on your own, which is a big deal in my opinion to be able to do that. And for the curious, of course, I added that a framework, which is basically a tool you can use to develop in your backend is Spring Boot and your front end Angular, for example. So you would have a project where your backend is in Spring Boot and your front end is in Angular, and then you combine those two to have your web application. And that's yeah.
I have one question. What is the average duration of the projects you do?
Oh, it can take a lot of time depending on the size of the project, the requirements of the project. I would say if you want to create a basic website with a static website, you can make in a few days, for example. But if you want to create an application which has a lot of functionality, a registration, a blog, for example, that could take weeks if you do it on your own, of course, or even months, depending on if it's a big application. At my current job, for example, I have to rework a current application that we have, and it's taking me just to rework it at least a few months right now, because it's a pretty big deal.
And another question: do you see yourself being a software engineer in the coming 30 years, if I may put it in that way? Or what are the future prospects for the job?
You could go in a lot of directions, actually. The thing with IT is, if you follow an IT course in college or even in university, you still have the experience and the knowledge of, or at least the basic knowledge of other areas of IT. And it's still possible to change to, if I want to grow to a IT project manager, I have the opportunity, or an IT lead, let's say an IT lead, because you know how to code, but you still want to be a leader of something. You still want to manage, do some administrative work. There is an ability to grow in that direction too, which, for example, I am thinking of becoming a tech lead, for example, but I could also, but I'm not sure, maybe I will just stay a software engineer and try to grow into a senior software engineer, because I really like coding, and the administrative stuff of things is not really for me. Maybe I'm not sure yet. I need to experience more, I guess.
Good, thanks a lot, Deni. We had a lot of Denis as presenters today. I would say we can go ahead and go to the next presenter. Perhaps to stay in line with the language he will be using, I will switch as well. Как про веб-девелопмент Ибрагим нам скажет побольше. Я сейчас его добавлю на stage, если он еще не убежал. Сюрикал, Ибрагим.
Меня хорошо слышно?
Хотя Азал, еще раз скажи что-нибудь.
Меня хорошо слышно?
Нормально, нормально.
Okay, точно? Да, все наверное.
Я бы сказала, начинай. Какими навыками ты можешь с нами поделиться?
Я сам занимаюсь разработкой сайтов, скажем так. Начинал с графического дизайна, потом перешел на веб-разработку. Это было где-то лет 15 назад, наверное, когда я первый раз столкнулся с веб-дизайном. Это был HTML, CSS. После чего начал изучать PHP и понял, что на этом можно, в принципе, делать деньги. И после чего начал разрабатывать плагины для определенных CMS, Content Management Systems. Хеда, можешь следующий слайд?
Да.
То есть после чего начал разрабатывать модули для определенных контент-менеджмент систем, это как WordPress, Drupal, и есть еще SNG-система, называется Data Life Engine. На сегодня я владею языком C#, это тоже от Microsoft Framework, PHP и SQL, как скажем так, глобально из IT. Следующий слайд ты можешь. У меня немного больше слайдов получилось, чем наших коллег. То есть после 2008 года получилось так, что я начал делать проект для университета. У меня был клиент, который хотел мультиязычный сайт, но из-за того, что у них не было каких-то определенных возможностей у определенных CMS, я решил написать самопись. То есть это система, которую я сам начал писать с нуля для этого клиента. То есть на сегодня я его переписывал 3 раза, и у меня, можно сказать, свой собственный проект уже есть. То есть проект называется Board CMS. Он, конечно, не такой популярный, как WordPress, Drupal или там Joomla или еще что-то, но для своих клиентов я пытаюсь использовать ее. Контент-менеджмент система – это система управления контентом вашего сайта. То есть вам не надо знать, не программировать не надо разрабатывать там дизайн. То есть у вас есть дизайн, который вам дает заказчик. Заказчик получает дизайн от разработчика, то есть веб-дизайнера, системы управления. Хеда, можно следующий слайд? Сам дизайн, то есть веб-разработка состоит из 2 частей. Это как бы получится дизайн, графический дизайн и программирование. То есть все, что находится за background, то есть это PHP-программирование, система файлов, там база данных, безопасность и то, что Дени рассказывал, это тестирование продукта для того, чтобы клиент мог его получить. В основном главное, чтобы клиент получал красивый дизайн. Это самое, думаю, главное для клиента. Ему не интересно, что вы программируете, как вы программируете. Главное, чтобы сайт был красивый и понятный уже для его клиентов. Начал я свой ценность писать в 2008 году, и на сегодняшний день я написал более 20 модулей для своих клиентов, которые, думаю, клиенты мои так как бы им нравится это использовать до сих пор. То есть, довольны работой.
Один вопрос. Если ты, например, разработал веб-сайт для специфического клиента, и через, допустим, 5 лет этот клиент хочет добавить новый features этому сайту, и он обращается к новому девелоперу. Как это происходит?
Да, получается то, что когда я пишу код своего CMS, я начал отначально подходить правильно, чтобы из-за того, что я работаю с разными людьми, мне приходится постоянно давать доступ к коду, чтобы мои коллеги могли писать, дописывать. И во время учебы меня научили тому, чтобы правильно создавать концепт кода, то есть писать правильно, это красиво, чтобы другие коллеги понимали. И таким образом они довольно легко могут прочитать код, и таким образом они могут дописать или изменить какую-нибудь там функцию в коде самом. То есть каждый код состоит из классов, функционалов, и главное, чтобы чтобы все функции и классы были понятны для других разработчиков. И чтобы могли дописывать, конечно, другие модули к этому. А так клиенты без проблем уходили и отдавали проект другому разработчику, и разработчик писал мне, после чего я ему, если какие-то вопросы были, объяснял, как именно подходить к той проблеме, которая у них есть. Окей.
Значит, ты тоже, как и в предыдущих слайдах, как software engineer Deni упомянул, ты тоже как бы специализируешься, можно сказать, в этих технических языках.
Да. Получается, что я не только должен там написать этот код, но я должен дать понять, что... То есть, например, если я натягиваю дизайн на CMS, да, он должен быть, то есть, понятный для других разработчиков, как это сделано. То есть, правильно объяснил? Я правильно понял вопрос?
Да. Эм,
Ну, в разработке, в самой разработке очень много плюсов и минусов. То есть, например, многие, наверное, знают WordPress или тот же самый Joomla, если пользовались, то есть, или e-commerce магазины, как PrestaShop. То есть, когда ты свою систему пишешь, ты пишешь со своей логикой, со своими понятиями. То есть, это, скажем, такой твой ребенок. Но есть и плюсы, и минусы, конечно, в этом всем.
Окей. Это значит очень сильная любовь к своей профессии.
Это да. Без этого никак. Ну, и есть, конечно, плюсы и минусы во всем этом. Это если у тебя, например, люди могут использовать WordPress, для этого есть много модулей, много дизайнов. Но каждому клиенту я подхожу, знаешь, с душой, скажем так. Поэтому, ну, будем развиваться вперед, идти вперед и делать больше функционала, больше интересных вещей.
Что бы ты посоветовал людям, которые заинтересованы в веб-девелопменте? Мы знаем, сайтов очень много, ужасных тоже много, чтобы качество гарантировать. И да.
Я бы посоветовал сначала перед тем, как начинать писать свою систему, да, и свой продукт, лучше я посоветую попрактиковаться. Это практика может быть на WordPress, может быть на Drupal. Они тоже крупные системы, где можно просто научиться работать с ними и, то есть, создать продукт, да, на WordPress и отдать это клиенту. Таким образом, ты не только у тебя практика появляется в работе, но и ты понимаешь, какие ошибки могут быть в безопасности, в коде самом, при установке там продукта. Понятно?
Да.
То есть, просто практика, главная практика. И главное, конечно, если там с одного продукта переходить на другой продукт, да, это главное писать правильно свой код. То есть это самое главное, считаю.
У нас тут один вопрос, Ибрагим. Ты работаешь на себя или ты работаешь в какой-то специфической организации тоже?
В основном я работаю на себя и part-time. Это по уставку я работаю на гуманитарную организацию, как получается, в Брюсселе. Но основные проекты у меня свои.
Окей. Может, не в тему, но так как вопрос у нас есть, как ты находишь клиентов или у тебя где-то публикация, что они к тебе сами приходят?
Да, клиент как бы самая лучшая реклама, это если у тебя хорошие знакомые, тем более, если ты где-то живешь, ты можешь хорошо, то есть находят меня в основном люди, потому что они знают через кого-то, что я им делал какую-то там работу, и они довольны этой работой. Таким образом расходится быстро реклама. То есть в данный момент мне не надо нигде рекламировать, у меня клиенты сами приходят, как бы находят меня как бы сами.
Хорошо.
То есть это такая, как бы говорится, через человека получается, через знакомых таким образом расходится такая реклама паутина.
Угу.
Ну, это качество, наверное, не знаю, качество знакомых хороший просто попадается.
Это значит качество, потому что если качество плохое, то знакомые тоже не будут рекомендовать. Я не знаю, идем дальше, или ты бы хотел еще эмфасировать какие-нибудь плюсы и минусы, которые для нашей публики могут быть интересны?
Веб-разработка вообще, да, в веб-разработке хорошо, если начать с маленького, да, изучать кодирование каких-то там плагинов разных, после чего я все равно советую всем людям, кто заинтересован именно в IT, да, учить веб-разработку, потому что это будет легко в будущем в учебе. Потому что легко, но это дает такой базис, где ты можешь понять, как именно программировать дальше правильно. Как вот Дени рассказывал, тебе легче будет потом учиться. Хеда?
Да. Это, думаю, я не знаю, у аудитории нету дополнительных вопросов. Это, очевидно, твоя программа. Видим
Да,
на
это
основе
система,
слова. Я не знаю, если идем дальше.
Да, можно дальше посмотреть. Это просто примеры были панельки и фронт-пейдж. Какие функции там есть для работы с сайтом.
Что мы тут видим для аналфабетов, как я, может, чуть-чуть объяснишь?
Любой сайт сегодня состоит из контент-менеджмента, состоит из двух частей. Это фронт и есть бэк. Бэк — это для администраторов и, ну, скажем так, визуально. Есть админка и есть главная страница, где люди попадают. То есть админка — это только для администраторов, где они могут пополнять контент, изменять данные, там пользовательские страницы, там изменять все это, устанавливать различные модули. Может, следующий слайдер, еще один. Например, здесь есть там добавление языков различных, то есть добавление модулей, добавление информации компании. То есть не надо для этого программировать, просто стоит там поменять данные, и они появляются на сайте. То есть реально не надо программировать, в принципе, есть такая система управления. Okay.
А вот это modules management, что это тоже дополнительный features, который ты можешь добавить своему веб-сайту, если...
Да, есть, например, вот слева наверху есть donation, да, например, если я установлю этот модуль, люди смогут через сайт делать донации, то есть они могут посылать деньги там на различные проекты, то есть деньги давать на различные проекты или там еще что-нибудь там. Если нам, например, есть там блог, например, ему надо создать, он может установить модуль и сразу начать работать на блоге. То есть каждый блог в среднем пишется, каждый модуль я в среднем писал где-то 2-3 дня, скажем так. Но главный концепт был создать правильный подход к этому модулю, скажем так. Самое сложное. Да.
Вопрос, который я предыдущим тоже задавала. Как ты видишь свою профессиональную карьеру в будущем?
Ну, я более 10 лет уже разрабатываю эту систему, буду дальше работать над ней, потому что она увеличивается. Я в любом случае буду это добивать ее до, скажем, чтобы он попал в топ. Какие другие системы. То есть все, надеюсь, в будущем, потому что очень много модулей, которые для работы люди могут использовать для своей работы, скажем так. И эта вся работа просто так не может так остаться без внимания. А так в IT остаюсь, как всегда, потому что это я начал с детства интересоваться IT, и также отучился на это и иду только вперед.
У нас тут вопрос. Есть у тебя свой веб-сайт?
Да, есть, но получается так, первые 2-3 года он был, но потом как-то времени нет на свой портфолио, и с каким-то там моментом он просто пропадает.
Другой вопрос. Насколько сильна конкуренция в сфере веб-девелопмента?
Веб-программирование очень сильно, скажу так. Ну, так, 50 на 50, зависит, насколько, если это знакомые, да. Да, в принципе, очень сильная конкуренция, скажу так. Потому что очень много разработчиков, но проблема в том, что разработчики разные, и есть хорошие разработчики, есть разработчики. Поэтому здесь всегда такая, каждый старается по-своему.
Еще спрашивают, ощущаете ли недостаток работы или проблемы в поиске? Проблемы в поиске ты, по-моему, уже упомянул, что реклама от клиентов очень важна. Бывают у тебя периоды, как сказать, это, конечно, больше из-за того, что ты как на себя работаешь. Бывают периоды, где у тебя меньше клиентов или нет клиентов?
Не, IT, она такая фишка, что там никогда почти не бывает проблем с работой. То есть работ очень много, даже если как фрилансер пойти, да, начать работать как фрилансер, очень много работы. Но главное здесь в том, что сколько ты будешь просить денег за эту работу свою. Вот в чем. То есть хороший фрилансер, он берет довольно много, и поэтому работы может быть и много, и мало, но здесь зависит от качества всегда. Если же фрилансер берет мало, то у него работы будет очень много, но и работы будет много. То есть он не будет все успевать делать. А так работы по IT очень много, и без работы здесь, думаю, мало кто остается в любом случае. Правильно, я надеюсь, правильно ответил, да, на вопрос?
Да.
То есть работы много в любом случае. По веб-разработке, даже по программированию. Там. Единственное, не советую изучать только один веб-дизайн, потому что веб-дизайнов очень много, и там конкуренция очень большая, и запрос на... То есть их очень мало берут на работу, скажем так.
Слишком узкая сфера тогда.
Нет, очень много разработчиков веб-дизайна, и, скажем так, когда рынок заполнен, скажем, разработчиками, да, веб-дизайна именно, то есть таким образом и работы очень мало получается.
Окей.
Если я не подправьте туда.
Хорошо. Тогда на этом, я думаю, я не знаю, у тебя есть еще дополнительное, чем ты хотел бы поделиться аудиторией, Ибрагим, если нет, то предлагаю, идем дальше.
Да, это плохо, главное стремиться.
Next, SAP consultant, that's me. I'm working as an SAP consultant, and what is an SAP? SAP, it's a German company founded a while ago, I think in the 70s, and they brought a software package named SAP on the market. And this software package is known as an ERP system. ERP system, what is that? That's a software, business software that will support your company in the different processes you have. It's kind of an end-to-end solution. I will try to emphasize the different modules we have in SAP. I hope I will be more successful with you guys, because I made several attempts explaining what I'm doing for my job with my relatives, and it was not always successful. And then you end up, oh, I'm working in IT somewhere. Imagine we have a lady. She sold a super cool Italian step to an Englishman. She sold it with a profit. After a while, they both decide to go into a business together. In order to manage the shipping delivery expectations from the customers, they open a warehouse in Germany. But the production of the steps will take place in Italy. And they will be selling all over Europe. And at the end, obviously, you want to have a view on how well or not you're doing as a company. As you see here, there are many processes. A company has a lot of processes, and what we touched here, you have production, you receive invoices there, you are selling to the customers, you're sending out the invoices, and it's in the Europe, then you have to follow the European law. And that's why SAP is called ERP system, because it has different modules that you can use in your company. I am specialized in finance. And in the coming slide, you will see as well, my examples are very finance related. But important to mention, if you're saying finance, it's really not my cup of tea. That's not everything in SAP. You also have what we saw here, sales, that's your customer invoices and everything attached to that. Your procurement, as you have a warehouse and the production in Italy, you will be purchasing some manufacturing articles from your vendors. You have HR. If you have employees working for your firm, you need to how can I put it? You need to kind of maintain their data as well. I will be focusing on finance. Finance, it's like the end of your chain. At the end, You have legal requirements. You need to report to the governments, first of all. Then you also have management requirements. That's within your company itself. The management needs to have different reports in order to make the decisions. For example, in our example, you would need to see, is our product still profitable? If we add different colors, will it be still profitable, interesting, and so on? This is very abstract. If we go more in my function as a consultant, my eyes are hurting like this. I've underlined functional consultant. Why? I am a functional consultant. And then you have also technical consultants. Technical consultants are people who will be developing programs. That's kind of what we saw Deni Askhabov. We could forgive me if it's not the correct word, but technical consultant, that's someone who will be in SAP developing programs. I'm functional consultant. What it means, I'm the link between the technical team and the business. What do I mean with that? For example, I need to understand how business works. I need to understand if I'm working on a project. For example, my previous project was a retailer located in Belgium. Then when they invoice, they send invoices to a customer in France, for example. I need to know, okay, for this invoice we will not have a VAT because it's it's something in Europe, and there we don't charge VAT. So that's the knowledge you kind of gather. Do you need to have it upfront? No, but that's the knowledge that technical consultants will mostly lack as well. An SAP project, how does it usually look? I'm working also, Deni emphasized the role of a consultant. I'm employed by a consulting firm, but I'm usually working at the customers. And the SAP project itself usually takes a year. The project usually starts with collecting the requirements or business needs. We really sit down with the accountants. What does a company, not the company, but what does the company need to be able to do in the new software? They will launch a lot of business needs they have. We need to send out the invoices. We need to make sure that we charge the VAT to this customer, and the 21%, 6%. There are a lot of details, and these business needs you will also categorize like legal requirements and must-have requirements, nice-to-have requirements, because depending on the list of your requirements, you might not be able to realize them all at once. So collecting business needs, the next step is design. You have standard SAP with a lot of functionalities, but there will always be some needs from the business that you will not be able to cover using the standard. There is always that one program or report that they need, which is not available in SAP itself. It's kind of normal, I would say. Why? Because SAP itself is used in more than 190 countries, and depending on the country, the requirements are also different. Just to give you an example, in Belgium, we don't have that requirement. In Italy, they have a requirement to send out the invoices electronically. That's a legal requirement. So if you have these kind of requirements differing from the standard solution, there you would develop a program. As a functional consultant, I will write the logic for that program. I will not develop the program because I don't have that knowledge. I will write the logic. I give that logic to the developer. Developer will develop, and then you test to see, does it really cover what we had in mind. Next to that, build. That's configuration. What's configuration? You see on the right hand, it's a blank, empty box, SAP, if I may put it that way. There, you need to configure the system for the specific customer. You need to create that customer. You, for example, if they have a business needs on the payment terms, what do I mean? For example, you receive invoice for your electricity, and usually they are asking you to pay within the 15 or 30 days, right? Depending on the invoice, it will be different. So we as finance consultants need to make sure, okay, we have payment terms of 30 days, 15 days. And then it's also possible the customer say, well, we have a customer, we have a very good relationship with that customer. And if he will pay within the 15 days after the invoice receipt, we will give him 2% of discount on that invoice. So all these things, they are not here, obviously, because these are very customer specific requirements. These are the things you are going to configure. Just to give you example you will be familiar with, imagine you receive an invoice for your electricity. You've received the invoice for October. We're already mid of November. You still did not pay that invoice. You will receive a first reminder, kind of a very nice email or a letter asking you to pay. You probably forgot. They assure you probably forgot. If after that you still don't pay, you receive a second reminder that might be less nicer than the first one. And if you still decide not to pay, then you receive a third one, an angry one, mentioning that they might reach out to their lawyer. Obviously, it's not an employee sitting behind a computer writing these reminders to all the customers. That's I think obvious, because you have tons of reminders sent out. So that's also what a finance consultant would do. Okay, we need to make sure that we have different levels of dunning. First one, nice. Second one, less nicer. Third one, angry one, and so on. So these are also the adjustments you do in the system. And you also make considerations for which customers you would send these reminders. For example, if you have an invoice for 30 euros and you don't want to end up sending angry reminders to a customer that brings millions every year, so obviously. After design, after configuration is done, you need to test. Very important. It's not because you have put it there, it will work that way from the first attempt as well. Testing, and then you will test yourself. The developer will first test what he has, the program he's developed. Then you need to test it's really doing how it should be working. And then the business will be involved in testing as well. After testing, a very important one is as well training and coaching. You are, as functional consultant analyst, you are often in contact with the business people, with the accountants, because you are the link. They are perhaps switching from a totally different system to SAP and they know nothing about. Up to you to educate on how to use the system as well. And as the final step, it's migration. You need to make sure that the data from the previous system, it's migrated to SAP. Data, these are your vendor invoices, customer invoices, the assets that your company will have, all the balances and so on. Very important activity because between old and new system, you should not be losing few millions, otherwise you might have issues with the audit. Not might, you will for sure have issues with the audit. On the right hand, we see the back end of SAP. This is how it started, and it's kind of still looking this way. Next to that, they have developed Fiori. It's a web-based user interface, looking a bit fancier than the back-end GUI solution, but both are doing the same. That was it from my perspective as a functional consultant. I don't know if there are questions. If yes, feel free to launch. I am, to be honest, the projects so far I have been working on are S4HANA. S4HANA, you have SAP, as I mentioned, it started in the 70s, and of course they had different versions. It started with R2, R3, and then the previous one was ECC, and now it's S4HANA. And also important, if a customer decides to switch from previous version to the new one, you're again going to go through the full cycle, because it's not like switch on and we're going to transfer everything to the new system. Why I have chosen SAP as a career? To be honest, I started as a business controller. Business controller, it's not a consultant, it's a back end, and quite after a while I was like already bored with the routine in that job. As an SAP consultant, I like the fact that you really get to know how business works, accounting, management, reporting, and also when working at a customer, you kind of see, okay, how it is to work at that customer. You have an idea, would I like to be would I prefer to be employed here for as a permanent, yes or no. And another dimension is the fact, if I've done an SAP project, it does not mean the second one I'm going to repeat everything I done on the previous one, because it's always different. You have always, depending from the customer, you have one is a retailer, the other one is in manufacturing. The business needs will be different, and the things you need to do in the system will be different as well. What are the future prospects in my job? The future prospects is, as an SAP consultant, the next step is management. And then as a project manager, you are less working in the configuration design, but more managing your team, making sure they are doing what needs to be done. That's one prospect. And after, next to that, you kind of also have, if you say, okay, after I no longer want to be working as a sub-consultant, you can switch to accountancy, switch to any finance, many finance functions that are available. any support services you offer post-migration step. Yes, after migration, you have hypercare. Hypercare means after migration, few weeks, depending on the contract you have with the customers, you will support the business. Imagine they have an issue in the system, they get an error for specific function, then you still give support. After the hypercare, you leave the project, and the support, the usual support, goes to the customer's back office. They usually also have external party supporting their. Is SAP similar to Salesforce? Is it completely different? To be honest, I have not worked with Salesforce, and I could not reply to that query. Based on my information I picked up in my firm, I have the impression that Salesforce, it's a bit limited version, but I don't know the details of Salesforce in order to compare. Does it mean that every newly established enterprise, small or big, needs to develop new software, or they can implement an existing one and make changes on it? Not sure I fully understand the question, but as a small or big enterprise, you can opt to go for SAP. Not something people assume quite often as well, that SAP is mainly used by big companies. That's not true. There are a lot of small, medium enterprises as well. And depending on the functionalities on the previous slide, where is it? On the previous slide, you had the different modules, but it does not mean that you need to take all of them. If you are saying procurement, I don't need it, it's not relevant for my business, or warehouse management, it's not relevant, that's also an option, because the more you take, the more license cost will be. That was it for me. There will be no quiz because I was too lazy. Guys, I don't know, from the other presenters, I think we've covered the main questions we received.
There is Adam, who is asking the future prospects in your industry job to all speakers. So maybe everyone can, I think you already...
Yeah, I already replied, so perhaps...
So I guess, yeah, I can then give my opinion on that. I also did it previously, but so as a software engineer, I see basically three options in the future: to become a freelancer, to become a senior developer, or a tech lead. Now, tech lead is the thing that I'm currently in the near future most interested in, because it builds confidence and you get to learn to manage better in general, and that's something I want to improve and I want to grow to. But in the far future, I think it would be interesting to become a freelancer too, because the pay gets better too. And I guess the other Deni and Ibrahim can answer next.
And Deni, perhaps you could answer to the same question as well. Product owner for life, or something else after a few years? We don't hear you, Deni. You're muted.
Now? Can you hear me?
Now it's okay.
Now it's okay. Yeah, product owner for life. Well, the role did not exist like 15 years ago. So we'll see what is there in 10 years. But if you look around, everything is a product, essentially. Everything's digital now. So, and there are a lot of horrible products. So I think there's a big need for good product managers, product owners, software engineers, for great software engineers. So I think it is there to stay. and things will change, industries change. But I think for me, it's important to gain the skills I can apply later on, whatever it's product owner or product manager or whatever manager. So it's all about skills for me. So yeah.
Ibrahim, I think you partially already replied to that question, but perhaps emphasize it once again, being a freelancer for life or something else in the near future as well.
No. I'm busy with my projects. So like to make something big, in my life.
Ibrahim, I have. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. I was about to say you are with the fanciest ears here, but with the most annoying noise.
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm joking.
Сейчас нормально?
Go ahead.
Сейчас нормально?
Да, сейчас нормально. Извини, я забыла. Этот вопрос уже задавался?
Я знал. Я говорил, что в любом случае в своей сфере я буду дальше двигаться и лучше. To the best,
У нас еще один вопрос. From what I understand, you are all except one consultants working externally for clients. What are the benefits? The benefits, I can speak for myself. The benefits is that you get a taste to see how different clients are operating. While if you start permanently at a specific customer, then you need to change your job. While for us, the project comes to end, then you start a new adventure at another customer, for example. And another benefit as well, that you get a lot of support to develop yourself. If you have interest, you have tons of trainings that you get offered from your employer. That's at least the case for me. And for example, I think I forgot to emphasize, when I started as an SAP consultant, I did not have any knowledge on that software. I did not do any background Google search activities before deep diving into it. We got several weeks of bootcamp training, educating us in a specific domain. Obviously, you will not know a lot after the training, but this gives you an idea. And on the job, you get support as a junior from your senior colleagues. Yeah. That's the benefits for me. I don't know if the others have anything to add to that. If not, I think time management, I have to say, is excellent for this webinar, because we tried to aim at 8:30 and we're almost there. I would say thanks a lot, guys, for joining this call. We hope we were able to bring some knowledge on the opportunities you have. Some functions you obviously have to have a bit of background. That's not the case for all of them, and it's not you start there that you should be there for life. Thank you, guys, and I would say have a nice evening and have a nice weekend. See you later.
Serious خير. Sürdük
Adikyo Masiri.